Okay, every pony, it looks like I will do the recording of Hope and Shadows a little earlier than I anticipated. Not because I'm running out of stuff to read, because I was actually planning to do Anthropology by Jason the Human. But, well, I think I should complete this series first, even so Hope and Shadows is still ongoing. Even so, I see that the last update came in May 2013, and now we have October, so let's just hope that there will be more updates for that soon. Okay, without further ado, here comes Hope and Shadows. Hope and Shadows, Chapter 1. Sometimes They Fall, by Stephen Little. My Little Pony and all associated characters are copyright by Hasbro. With valor and courage they lead the way. They encourage us each and every day. When we're at our lowest in darkest night, they bring us happiness, strength, and light. But in their duties to us, they take on too much. They forgot to ask for help, to let us be their crutch. When they're all alone and against the wall, sometime even the strongest of us fall. Day becomes night, and night becomes day, over and over in seemingly endless cycles. Day turn into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. Babies were born, and children grew into adults. Time passes for all things equally, but 8 families in the town of Ponyville. The last 17 years seemed to crawl by unbearably slow. They all lived their lives as happily as they could, raising their children and taking care of each other, but for all of them a small ray of happiness had gone out of their lives. In the back fields of Sweet Apple Acres, Applejack and Big Macintosh stared down at a small headstone standing next to the grave of their grandmother. "I miss her, Big Mac. I miss her so much," she said, trying to control her tears rolling down her cheeks. "I know, I miss her too, sis," he said, hugging his sister. "We can only hope she'll come back to us someday." The light orange farm pony looked up at her older brother, her brow furrowed in anger as tears continued to run down her cheeks. "It's been 17 years without so much as a sighting of her. She's dead, Macintosh, and if we ever find her remains, we'll bury her here proper-like." The large red stallion grabbed his sister forcefully and fixed her with a stern gaze. "Don't you go talking like that. Applebloom is still alive. I know she is." "How? How can you know?" she asked, a glimmer of hope still showing in her eyes. "I can't tell you. I made a promise to some ponies that I wouldn't tell, but he told me that our sister's still alive, and she promised she'd come home when she felt it was right." Macintosh sighed heavily. "I should have never let you put up that habit zone, but I thought it would somehow make you feel better. Please, AJ, just trust me. We'll see her again. Now come on, we need to get going home before the others wonder where we are." On the southernmost edge of the Everfree Forest, a lithe and powerful-built mare took a cautious step out into the summer light. Long hard years in the borderlands of Equestria had toned and strengthened her body. As she walked, every muscle on her lean frame could be seen flexing beneath her coat. Her hoofs were unkempt, sharp and silent as she touched the ground. Her burgundy mane was long, knotted and ragged. Her eyes, one ostensibly dead eye, was concealed behind a long screen of oily hair, while the other, a mere beady pinprick of black surrounded by thin dull reddish orange. Her one good eye was rimmed with red as if she hadn't slept in days. Her tail held the same dirty red as her mane and was equally ragged. Her coat was a greyish-tan color that hid few of her many scars. The most obvious of these was a large gash across each of her flanks that seemed to have healed many years ago. Continuing down the path slowly, she stood in front of a small cottage by a stream. In the yard played a young filly and a colt. The yellow Pegasus colt was thin and a little on the gangly side, his blue eyes partially hidden by his orange mane. The young filly was distinctively amber with a brown mane, blue eyes, and a face full of freckles. Tying the back of the filly's mane together was a large red ribbon that was so familiar to the mysterious mare. The two foals noticed the strange mare on the path and stared at her, expecting her to say something. The mare just stared back. A gust of wind came up, blowing her hair back, revealing a long gash that crossed her face from her left ear to her right cheek, passing through her sightless eye. The foals screamed, "Mommy! Daddy! Help!" The mare looked up as 4 ponies well known to her exited the cottage.
"What are you doing here? What do you want?"
Big Macintosh yelled. The strange mare turned away without a word and slowly walked down the path. The stallion would not be ignored. As Caramel and Fluttershy gathered the children inside, he ran towards the mare to chase after her. But before he could get too close to her, she quickly kicked out with her back right hoof and caught him in the throat. The red stallion fell to the ground, trying to regain his breath through his bruised windpipe. Applejack shouted at her.
"You can't do that to my brother!"
She charged the stranger as recklessly as her brother. The ragged mare sidestepped and caught the pony by her blond ponytail with her teeth and yanked her back hard, pulling her to the ground. The nightmare of a pony, a sharp untrimmed hoof on the pony's neck, holding her where she lay. "To think I idolized either of you! You're weak, and I've outgrown you both." Her voice was harsh and cold as a winter's gale. She removed her hoof and continued to walk towards town. As soon as she was out of sight, Caramel ran to his wife and Fluttershy to her husband. "Are you okay?" Caramel asked them both.
"Yeah, I'm okay. Only my ego's been bruised. Fluttershy, how's Big Mac?"
"His windpipe is bruised, but I think he'll be okay."
"I need you to go warn Luna and Twilight that we got some dangerous pony heading to town. We'll look after Big Macintosh and get him to the hospital,"
Applejack said. Fluttershy kissed her husband, then flew off towards the Ponyville library. The mysterious mare stopped on the road just outside town. With her one good eye she surveyed the small hamlet. Town Hall, the Founder's Fountain, Sugar Cube Corner, it was all still there. The mare took a step forward, but stumbled. She was weak, and she knew it. She had wasted too much energy. The light was hurting her eye, and she still had far to go. Quickly she melted into the darkness behind a building and slowly moved across town, darting from shadow to shadow. She was concentrating on her final target when she heard 2 ponies talking behind her.
"Do you think he'll like it, Twist?"
"Oh, you know, Pip, if it comes from either of us, he'll love it." Turning her head, she saw them. One of them was small and slender, with a curly red mane and a white coat. The other was pink, with a light purple and white mane. As she walked by, she saw the cutie mark of the diamond tiara and the pink pony's flank. Sudden realization struck the strange mare. "Diamond!" she screamed. With a speed that most ponies would not think possible, the mare charged and smashed Diamond Tiara into a nearby tree. The pink pony collapsed under the assault. All the frightening pony's years of anger, all the hatred and malice poured forth, and she savagely kicked and beat the cringing pony.
"Stop it! You're hurting her!"
the white mare cried as she ran to her mate's aid. The enraged mare kicked the pony back against an adjacent building.
"Help! Some pony help us!" she screamed.
The voice that had taunted and tormented the mysterious mare all those years was now crying out for mercy. "No, no, no mercy, not for you!" The pale mare reared up, preparing for a final blow to the pony's neck, when she was bowled over by a violet unicorn stallion with a royal purple mane and tail. The mare looked up at Diamond's rescuer. He was well built, toned, and muscular, but it was his eyes that seemed to draw her in. His deep, vibrant, penetrative eyes seemed to bore into her soul. She couldn't keep but stare into those emerald pools, but all she found was her own horrid image reflected back at her. Slowly getting back to her hoofs, the mare backed off into the shadows and appeared to vanish. The stallion turned to the white mare cradling Diamond Tiara. "Twist, we need to get out of here fast. She's hurt bad," the stallion said, using unicorn magic to levitate the injured mare onto his back.
Twist, it hurts so much, cried Diamond, her azure eyes screwed tight in pain. It's okay, sweetie. I'm right here. I'm not going to leave you, she responded. Twist? A cold and bitter voice called out. Why have you betrayed me? You will meet the same fate as the others. The stallion and Twist ran off with their precious burden towards the Pony&Wolf hospital. The mare turned and slowly continued on her way. Precious energy had been lost, but her final target was in sight. The Pony&Wolf library. It was different than she remembered. A small 2-story building had been built onto the side of the tree. This is it, she thought to herself. Vengeance will be mine. The mare charged to the front door of the library, smashing it to pieces as she threw her body against it. Where is she? 3 alicorns, a male and 2 female, were shocked at the appearance of this intruder. Dusk, Dawn, get behind me, now! The 2 younger alicorns rushed behind their mother. Ah, Twilight Sparkle, how good to see you again. When I'm done with your wife, I'll deal with you next. Where is she? Where is that pathetic excuse for a princess? Where is Luna? I'm right here, came a voice from behind the mare. She spun around, but not fast enough. Before she could attack, Luna knocked her into an unconscious state with her magic. Luna, who is that, and how does she seem to know who we are? Twilight asked. Don't you recognize her, my love? Luna looked by the door, where hung the last known photograph of Applebloom. To one side of the picture was a red bandana emblazoned with the crest of the Cutie Mark Crusaders. The Pony&Wolf hospital was incredibly busy that morning. There had been so many injuries in such a short time. Twilight and Luna had gathered most of their friends in one of the treatment rooms where Applejack and Big Macintosh were being patched up. Hey, Applejack, how are you and your bro doing? We're doing okay, Rainbow. Macintosh got the worst of it. I just got my pride hurt for the most part. That thing walloped us but good.
Mackie, you are so brave defending Chaser and Toffee like that,
Fluttershy said, hugging her husband. Luna was watching Applejack and Big Macintosh and couldn't help but weep. Twilight comforted her wife as much as possible. It's okay, Luna, we weren't hurt that bad, Applejack assured her. It's not that, Applejack. You see, after that mare left you, she came to town. With what information we could get from Garnet, we learned that she almost killed Diamond Tiara, and probably would have if Garnet hadn't intervened. That's my boy, Spike said proudly. Garnet scared her off, but then she came to the library, looking for Luna and myself, Twilight explained. She didn't hurt you, did she? No, Brayburn. Luna was able to knock her out before anything bad happened, but that's not the point. That pony down the hall is, or at least was, Applebloom, Twilight revealed. Garnet closed the door behind him, leaving Twist and Pip to have some time with Diamond Tiara now that she was awake. That thing certainly did a number on Diamond. I hope she'll be okay, he thought to himself. Garnet was walking down the hall to Applejack and Macintosh's room when he heard every pony behind the door shout at the same time. Applebloom? He rushed into the room. Applebloom? He asked cautiously. Spike walked over and put a claw on his son's shoulder. Son, I don't want you to get too excited, but it seems Applebloom was spotted in Ponyville. She's here in the hospital, but she's not. Garnet didn't wait for the rest. He ran out of the room over to the nurse's aid station. Quickly he read the patient's board, scanning for a particular name. ABRM-107. Running down the hall, he read each number as he went. Upon finding the room, he carefully tapped on the door with his hoof. There was no answer. Quietly, he opened the door and softly stepped inside the room. There she was, lying in the hospital bed, hooked up to numerous IVs and machines monitoring her vital signs. Her mane was longer, but with that shade of red hair and yellow coat, it couldn't be any pony but Applebloom. Her back was to him, and her chest was slowly rising and falling in the room's dim light. "I'm not asleep. What do you want?" she asked. Garnet was overjoyed. "Applebloom, I'm so happy you're back. You don't know how much we all missed you." "I don't know who you are, but it's obvious you're an idiot. Go away." "Oh, that's right. I was 4 when you left Ponyville to go on your adventures. It's me, Garnet. Remember, I used to tag along with you and the other Crusaders. I'm the town's sheriff now, but hey, it's still me." "The stallion," she thought to herself. "Why didn't I see it earlier?" "You," she said, turning over in bed, staring at him with her one eye. "You stopped me. Why? What is that piece of trash worth to you?" "It can't be," he shouted in disbelief. "You can't be the same mare from earlier. The apple bloom I knew would never do that to any pony." "Well, guess at what, little boy? The pony you knew is gone. She grew up and found the world isn't all rainbows and sunshine." Apple Bloom tried to move further, but found her 4 legs secured by straps to the bed. Straining hard, she ripped the strap on her right foreleg, then undid the rest. Grabbing hold of the numerous needles and tubes in her with her teeth, she ripped them out, causing the injection sites to bleed. She rolled out of her bed and advanced on the purple unicorn, blood running down her front legs. Her mane had been brushed back, exposing her scar and sightless eye. "What's the matter, Garnet? Aren't I pretty? What do you think of my cutie mark?" she asked, exposing her badly scarred flank. "I made it myself. Isn't it just great?" Her voice was dripping with sarcasm. Garnet continued backing away from her until they were both in the hall. "What happened to you? What made you like this?" "Life happened," she said, poking him in the chest with now manicured hoof, smearing her blood on his coat. "Life is cold, hard, and cruel. Life is pain. Any pony who says different is selling something. Get used to it." She pushed the stunned stallion off to the side. "Stay out of my way this time. I have something to finish." Walking away from Garnet, she made her way down the hall and looked at the patient's board. There she is, room 202. Walking toward the stairs, Apple Bloom passed by a crash cart in the hall. A glint of light reflected off of one of the surgical instruments resting on a half-open drawer in the cart. The half-crazed mare couldn't help but stare at the light shining off its mirror-like surface. Staring into her own reflection, she heard the thing call out to her. "Take it, you know what to do," it said. "Show her no mercy. Show her what it's like to be you. Show her what it's like to be a blank flank, then destroy her." Reaching her nose in, she grabbed the instrument by the handle and headed for the stairs. Garnet sat there, with Apple Bloom's blood slowly running down his chest. She had become so different than what he remembered. The purple stallion wasn't sure what to do, but he knew that whatever Apple Bloom had in mind, it wouldn't be good. He ran down the hall to follow her and caught up to her just as she entered the stairwell. "Apple Bloom, please come back." "I told you to stay out of my way, little colt." Garnet used his unicorn magic to restrain the mare, but she was fighting the pull. The strain on Garnet was tremendous, but he eventually got the better of her and pulled her back down the stairs and into the hall. "I can't let you hurt anyone else." "Let me go. That trash, that filth, has it coming," she shouted. Twilight and the rest of the ponies came out of the treatment room and saw Garnet restraining a bleeding Apple Bloom in the hall. "Help me," he shouted. "She's trying to hurt Diamond again. Release me! I'll show her who the real blank flank is. I'll stuff it down her bucking throat." Twilight and Luna added their magic to the restraining aura around her. "Luna, quickly, while we still can hold her," Twilight shouted. "Let me go! I'll kill you all!" the crazed mare screamed. Luna galloped over and bowed her head to the thrashing mare. Her horn glowed and Apple Bloom had again slipped into unconsciousness. Spike rushed over, picked up the mare, and carried her back to her room. Rarity walked to where Apple Bloom had been and used her magic to pick up an object from the floor. "What's this? And why would Apple Bloom have it?" she asked. Fluttershy took a close look at the instrument. "That's a scalpel. It's a knife that's used in surgeries to make the initial incisions. Please be careful with it. It's very sharp." Pinky had been listening intently to the other mares. "You don't think she was, with what she said? You don't think she was going to—" The very idea of a pony maiming another in that fashion was reprehensible for Pinkie Pie. How could any pony even think of cutting the cutie mark off another pony? The thought made the pink pony shudder visibly. Applejack and Big Macintosh could only sit in horror, watching their sister be carried away after her murderous rant. "What's wrong with her, Twilight?" Applejack asked.
"She's been poisoned by a black thorn creeper," Twilight said solemnly.
"Oh my gosh, not a black creepy!"
Pinky gasped.
"Not black creepy, a black thorn creeper. It's a carnivorous plant that usually attacks sleeping animals by wrapping its feelers around a victim and injecting them with a hallucinogenic toxin that normally disables them. Then, like a constricting vine, it strangles them to death and slowly consumes them," Luna explained.
"Oh my gosh, and you say my sweet little sister was attacked by one of those things?"
Applejack asked.
"I doubt it, Applejack. I've spoken with the doctors already, and they say the scar on her face and the damage to her eye is recent. It appears she was fighting something and fell into the bush," Twilight said. "We pulled 65 of those thorns out of her," Fluttershy said. "That much toxin would have almost certainly overpowered any pony, but with all the adrenaline in her system we assume she was able to get out of the bush and fight off whatever was attacking her. I'm sorry I wasn't there when they cleaned her up, or I would have told you, Mackie. I'm sorry, she was just so scary."
"It's okay, darling. You didn't know. As for you, Luna,"
Macintosh said angrily, his face softened.
"Thank you. My little sister's back, and that's all I care about." "Big Macintosh is right, Sugar Cube. We was plenty mad at you when you ran away, but that's water under the bridge. What matters now is getting our baby sister back home with us," Applejack assured her.
"Spike, maybe you should write a letter to Sakura and let her know what's going on. She might have an idea how to get the toxin out of Apple Bloom's system," Soren suggested. "In the meantime, we're gonna go get Belle and Scoot," Rainbow Dash said, as she and her husband raced down the hall, heading for the exit. Spike wrote down all the events on the new scroll Twilight had invented. Once he was finished, he burned the scroll, sending it to Sakura. "I was wondering," Spike said, "if we're all here, who's watching the folds?" Rarity suddenly felt ill. "Excuse me," she said as she galloped quickly to the bathroom. "I'd better follow her," Twilight said, "just to make sure she's okay." The violet alicorn raced after Rarity. "We left them at Honey back at Sugar Cube Corner," Fluttershy said. "That's great. Honey loves folds," Pinky said. "And besides, it's not like she'll be all by herself." "Wherever Honey is, you can bet J2 won't be far behind. I've got to talk to Rainbow and Soren about that boy. I don't like him getting too friendly with my little felly," Brayburn said. "Oh, Brazy, you're just like Daddy!" Rarity was hugging a toilet bowl when she felt a hoof on her back. "Rarity, are you okay?" Twilight asked. "No, Twilight, I'm not okay," Rarity said as she flushed the toilet. She walked over to the sink and washed her face. "Something's happened, and I have no idea what to do. I'm happy about it. I really am, but I'm scared too." "What's the matter?" "I'm pregnant. Again," she confessed. Twilight was shocked. "Rarity, how could you— I thought you loved Spike. How could you go behind his back and— Rarity put a hoof on her mouth to keep her from continuing the thought. "Twilight, I haven't been with another pony. Trust me. When you've slept with a dragon, nothing else will do. It doesn't hurt that he's hung and good at it, too. Really, really good at it." "Okay, I didn't need that image. What am I going to do? I don't want Spike to think I've been running around on him. I'm sorry, Rarity. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions, but I'm sure that if you and I sit down and talk to Spike, he'll understand," Twilight said, trying to comfort her. "How long have you known?" "The nurse in the mandatory ward said I was 4 months along, and that was 3 days ago," Rarity informed her. "Well, as soon as we're done here, I think we better tell Spike. You're already starting to show, so you're going to have to tell him eventually." "Okay, Twilight, you and Luna have always been there for us. If you're there, I think I can do this. We should really get back to the others before they wonder where we are." As the two mares left the bathroom and passed by one of the nurses' stations, a light blue stallion wearing a doctor's coat ducked around the corner so as not to be spotted. As soon as they were out of sight, the pony ducked into the janitor's closet. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a small black box with what looked like a stick coming out of its top.
Holding it in one hoof, he pushed a button on its side with his other. "Your Majesty, can you hear me?" "I'm here, Dr. Silver. What do you have to report?" "There seems to be a problem with the plan. The white unicorn is pregnant again. From what I could hear, she's 4 months along, and the child was sired by the dragon." The pony summed up. "If it would help, the next time she's in for checkup I can slip something in her prevental vitamins that will abort the pregnancy." "You will do no such thing," he shouted through the device. "This is indeed an unexpected development, but I think it will work out to our advantage. When the demon reappears and Celestia shows her true colors, we will act. If the child has been born, we can use it as further proof for our cause. If not, well, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it." "But sire, surely you don't mean to allow that abomination to live?" the stallion asked. "Dr. Silver, I will put this as plain as I can. If I found out that you harmed that child and endangered my plan in any way, I will personally tear you limb from limb and have whatever remains burned. Is that perfectly clear?" "Yes, my prince, I will obey," he said, trembling. "Good. I want you to monitor her condition and report back to me anything of consequence regarding her or any of the targets." "As you wish, sire," the light blue stallion said, returning the device to his pocket and slipping out of the janitor's closet. Twilight and Rarity walked back to where the group of ponies had huddled around Spike as he read a scroll. "Is that the scroll you sent earlier, Spike?" Twilight asked. "Sure is. This return to sender paper works great, Twilight," Spike said as Rarity nuzzled up against him. Spike gave her a small kiss on the cheek and smiled at her. "Everything okay, dear?" "Yes, just a little upset stomach," she reassured him. "What does Sakura say?" "Sakura says she would come to town immediately, but she's sick and can't leave her cottage." "I'll have to take her some soup," Fluttershy interrupted. "Oh, sorry, Spike." "That's okay, Fluttershy. She says that there is no cure for the toxin. We have to let the drug run its course, and given Applebloom's behavior, she should probably keep her unconscious and just let her sleep it off." Garnet walked into the room. "I'll stay with her until she wakes up." Spike walked in behind him. "Son, a word, please." Spike closed the door behind him, giving them some privacy. "Garnet, I know you've carried a torch for Applebloom, but the last 17 years, ever since you were very little. But things being what they are, I think you should maybe keep your distance for a little while at least." "Father, I know you're trying to help, but I just can't." Garnet ran a hoof down the unconscious Applebloom's mane. "She needs me, Father. She's hurting inside, and all I want to do is help her through it." "What about Diamond? Did you forget about her?" Spike asked him. "Diamond is a married mare. Why would you even bring her up?" he asked. "I know you and some of the other ponies have issues with their relationship with Twist and Pip, but get over it." "I have nothing against their relationship. What I meant was what Applebloom did out there in town and what she almost did a few minutes ago. I just don't want you to get hurt, son. There are a lot of other fillies in town. Maybe you should give them a chance for once." "I will have you know, the only reason I'm not yelling is because I don't want to wake her up," Garnet fumed. Steam was starting to come out of his nose. "It wasn't Applebloom that attacked Diamond, and it wasn't Applebloom who tried to hurt Diamond again. The poison in her was making her do it." "Calm down, son. You're starting to steam." "So what if I'm starting to steam? I have a right to. As for other fillies, I don't want them. Did anyone ever tell you to stop going after Mother? Did they tell you not to pursue her because you might get hurt?" "Constantly, even your mother on occasion. But, son, this isn't the same thing. She's dangerous. We don't know what 17 years in the Borderlands can do to a pony." "Something like that wouldn't stop you. From what Mother told me, you risked your life on more than one occasion for her. If it's good enough for you, then it's good enough for me." Garnet stepped over to a chair by the bed and sat down, shooting steam out of his nose, indicating his irritation at his father. Spike sighed. He knew there was no arguing with his son when he got like that. "Okay, son. Good night. If you need anything, you know where your mother and I are." Good night, father. Please give my love to mother. Spike quietly walked out of the room and shut the door behind him. That boy is impossible. He's just like his father, Rarity said, smiling. I think we should all go home and get some rest. There's nothing we can do tonight. I'll instruct the doctor to keep her out until we're sure the toxin is out of her system, Luna said to the group of ponies waiting in the hall. The purple alicorn turned to her wife and gave her a quick nuzzle. Twilight, I want to talk to Garnet real quick, and then I'll be on my way home. The lavender alicorn nodded and ushered the others out into the reception area. Luna quietly entered the room. Garnet, are you going to be okay by yourself? Do you want me to stay? I'll be fine, Princess Luna. Sometimes father can infuriate me. I wish he'd stop treating me like a foal. He can't help it, Garnet. You're his only son. You were the product of his first perfect night with your mother. That makes you very special to him. The princess sat next to the forlorn unicorn. Garnet, I want you to know something. You were right. Everything you told your father was right. She does need you, more than either of you know. You hurt me? Garnet asked. The walls aren't all that thick, Garnet. Here, I want you to have this. Luna wrapped a silver pendant around his neck. The ornament was thin, and its surface was emblazoned with the image of a shield on its surface. Looking closely at the pendant, the pointed shield looked almost exactly like his cutie mark. Keep that hidden and try not to let any pony see it, especially Applebloom. I don't think she'd understand. That pendant had been enchanted to let you know whenever Applebloom is in trouble or doing something dangerous. The darker it glows, the worse it is. Keep an eye on it and keep an eye on her. Garnet gave Luna a hug. Thanks for understanding. I know what it's like to have feelings for some pony and not knowing how they feel. Be patient with her, and don't let anything she's done so far sway your opinion. The toxin in her system has heavily influenced the way she acted and what she said lately. Let her sleep it off, and I'm sure we'll see the real Applebloom shine through. You really missed her, didn't you, Princess? The purple unicorn asked. More than you know, Garnet. I've always felt that her running away was something my fault, but that's all behind us now, because Applebloom is back, and I'm going to do whatever I can to keep it that way. I hope I can count on you to help me with that, she said with a small smile. You can count on me, Princess, he said, blushing slightly. Luna walked out of the room and towards the hospital's exit. This should be interesting, she thought to herself. Applebloom slept for 3 weeks while the toxin worked its way out of her system. At times her sleep was troubled and fevered, while at other times she slept peacefully. Through good and bad, Garnet was there, watching over her. 2 mares, an orange Pegasus and a white unicorn, entered the room quietly. The white unicorn gently nudged Garnet. Garnet, Garnet, honey, wake up. The purple unicorn woke up with a start. Sis, Scoot, what are you two doing here? Sweetie Belle gave her little brother a hug. We're here for her. Rainbow and Soren told us that she was back, so we dropped what we were doing and rushed home. But what about your concert? You're right in the middle of a tour. Don't worry about that, Scootaloo reassured him. I put a press release saying she wasn't feeling well, and a new concert schedule would be released as soon as she was well enough to perform. We got all the time in the world. I guess I should bring you up to speed, he sighed. Garnet informed them about everything that had happened since Applebloom's return, the event at the cottage, Diamond Tiara, even the incident with the scalpel. He told them everything. You haven't left this room in 3 weeks? Sweetie Belle asked. Well, other than the necessities, yes. I've stayed here. She needs some pony who isn't afraid of her. It's going to be a long road before she's comfortable around other ponies again, but if I can help her, I will. Kind of my job and all, protect and serve. You guys mind keeping it down? I'm trying to sleep here. Applebloom, you're awake! Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle yelled. She cringed and covered her ears. Not so loud, my head feels like Applejack used it for bucking practice. Scoot, go and get the others, please, Garnet asked her quickly. You got it, she said, and raced out of the door. How are you feeling? Sweetie Belle asked her. Applebloom quickly jerked her head forward to allow her mane to cover her right eye before turning to face her. "I've been better, and why are my legs strapped down?" Garnet was about to speak when the memories of the last few days came flooding back. "Oh no, what have I done? Applejack, Big Macintosh, I hope they're okay. Diamond Tiara, well, she needed a beatdown, but not like that, and not by me. Twist must hate me." "Calm down, Applebloom. Everything's going to be okay. You're home now, and we're all going to do our very best to help you," Garnet reassured her. "Before everyone gets here, what do you want to do now? I mean, I hope you don't want to get back to the road," Sweetie asked. "No, after what happened, I think I've had enough of the world out there to last me a lifetime." "Oh, I'm glad to hear this, little sister," Applejack said as she entered the room, followed by all her friends. "I have your room all set up, just the way you left it." "Thanks, big sis, but I don't know if I'm ready to leave just yet. I'm still not feeling all that good." Fluttershy walked into the room with a clipboard hauled in her wings. "I'm sorry. You don't feel well, but it's to be expected. The poison is out of your bloodstream, but the 3 weeks in bed have left you a little weak. If you feel up to it, we'll get you started with some physical therapy tomorrow." Fluttershy cowered slightly when she saw Applebloom's bewildered expression. "Fluttershy, since when did you become a nurse here?" the yellow pony asked. "I'm not a nurse, Applebloom. I'm a doctor," Fluttershy informed her. "I finally earned my degree 4 years ago. A lot of ponies had been coming to me for advice on medicine or treatment, so I figured I should study medicine so I was certain I was giving ponies the right information. Twilight suggested that I take the medical exams since I'd doing so much studying and I passed. I still care for my little friends, but 3 afternoons a week and Sundays I work here," the Pegasus said with a smile.
"And I couldn't be any prouder,"
Macintosh added in. "Applejack, Macintosh, I'm sorry what I did. Can you ever forgive me?"
"Are you kidding?"
her sister asked her with a smile on her face.
"I've taken worse, and besides, I'm going to want you to teach me some of those moves."
"No problem, sis." Twilight walked towards the bed. "If Fluttershy says the toxin is finally out of your system, then I think we can take these off." Twilight lowered her horn, and the restraints on Applebloom's legs were released. "Thanks, Twilight. Thank you for trusting me." "It's okay, Applebloom. We don't really blame you for what happened. Black Thorn toxin is a very dangerous thing. I can only imagine the things it made you see and hear." Applebloom tried to sit up. "We have a present for you, Applebloom. Hold still, please," Luna said. The 2 princesses concentrated hard as their horns started to glow. Applebloom felt warmth coming from what she thought was a dead eye. She began to see light, then blurry images. Slowly those images came into focus, and she saw her friends and her family standing before her. "We couldn't completely heal the scar, but your eye should work as well as it always had." "Thank you, princesses. Thank you," the Earth Pony gushed, tears welling up in her eyes. "I thought I'd never see out of that eye again. I thought it was dead and I'd lose it. Thank you again. I don't know how I will repay you." "Your eye wasn't damaged too badly. The lens was knocked out of alignment and some of the focusing muscles were torn. That's why you couldn't see out of it," Twilight explained. "However, if you want to thank us, you can start by taking this back," Luna said as she floated a small necklace off her and around Applebloom's neck. "Thank you," she said, her eyes filling with tears. "I'm sorry, but visiting hours are ending soon, and we have to ask every pony to leave so the patient can get their rest," Fluttershy announced cautiously. "Oh, come on, Shy. Can't we just stay a little longer?" Scootaloo asked. "No," Fluttershy said firmly. "Applebloom needs her rest, and so do the other patients on this floor. I'm sorry, but you'll have to come back tomorrow." "Don't worry about it, girls. I'll stay with her tonight," Garnet told them reassuringly. Applebloom sat up in bed, watching her family and old friends leave the room. "I'll see you tomorrow. Don't worry about me." "So, Applebloom, I guess it's just you and me." "Garnet, if you're feeling up to it, maybe I can get Tootsie Flute and Dinky to visit. I know they'd love to see you again." "Garnet." "Yes, is there anything I can get you? So, water or another pillow, maybe?" he asked hopefully. "Go home, Garnet. I don't need you to look after me," Applebloom told him. The purple unicorn was hurt. "But what if—" Garnet, just stop, she said, interrupting him. Please, just go and leave me alone. I appreciate everything you've done, but I need to have time to think. All right, if you think that's best, he said, his ears hanging low. Please let me know if you need anything. Good night. Good night, Garnet. The smile on the unicorn's face was small and forced. His head hung down, and he slowly walked from the room and closed the door behind him. The hospital had gone quiet, as the last of the day's staff left for home. The night crew coming on was much smaller, only those ponies needed for emergency treatments being, as the majority of the hospital's guests, as they liked to call them, would have been asleep. Indeed, the dark halls were filled with the sounds of slumbering ponies emanating from the various rooms along the corridors. For one pony, however, sleep would not come. Long after Garnet had left the room, Applebloom lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling of her room. For some reason unknown to her, she couldn't shake the crestfallen expression on Garnet's face when she had told him to leave. Feeling herself blush, she cursed inwardly.
Damn, why does he have to be so cute?
The yellow mare lightly smacked herself.
Get a hold of yourself. He's 12 years younger than you.
Applebloom took a deep breath to calm herself, but instead of the antiseptic odor of a hospital room, all she could smell was him.
I need to get out of this room, she told herself.
She pulled back the covers, gently rolled out of bed, and headed for the door. Being a loner, the red-haired pony had never cared for hospitals, and now that she viewed the darkness corridors outside her room, she liked them even less. The yellow mare was always able to think best on her hoofs, and so she tried to walk through her current situation as she walked the vacant halls.
What am I going to do now? My family's afraid of me. Heck, almost every pony is, she sighed softly. I don't blame them. I ran away for years, never once talking to any of them. I come back, and I nearly kill one pony and almost attack the princesses. I'm surprised I'm not sitting in a dungeon cell right now.
An image of Garnet's smiling face invaded upon her catalogue of disgrace.
Damn it!
She yelled, slamming her right front hoof against the nearby door.
Come in if you must, but there's no need to be so violent with my door.
Applebloom cursed herself again.
I might as well apologize for waking her,
she thought to herself. Pushing down on the lever handle of the door, she gently pushed it open and noticed a ray of light coming from the room.
I guess she wasn't asleep after all. I suppose I should still apologize for the noise.
Putting on her best smile, she stepped into the room.
Hey, sorry about the noise and the dent in...
The yellow earth pony was interrupted by a shaky and strained voice.
Applebloom, is that you?
The scared pony stood in a dumbfounded silence. Laying in the bed in front of her was none other than her hated rival, and now that she looked at Diamond Tiara, she could feel nothing but remorse for the pink pony and gut-wrenching guilt for what she had done. In turn, Diamond looked back at her with a worried and confused look on her face. The pony's mane was smartly brushed, but could not hide her blackened left eye, nor the partially healed bruises on that side of her face. The pony's chest had been wrapped in several layers of bandages, and her back left leg was encased in a thick cast. What of the pony's fur she could see was partially covered in bandages. Diamond could feel Applebloom's eyes studying her.
I know what you're thinking. I look like I lost a fight with a wild animal. You're not that far off, she said. Listen, Diamond, I know you don't like me, and I've never been overly fond of you, but I'm sorry what I did. You didn't deserve what happened.
For the second time, the yellow earth pony was cut off by her rival.
Of course I deserved it,
the injured mare practically shouted. She rapped her right temple with a hoof.
Applebloom, please, sit next to me for a while. You and I have much to talk about. Aren't you afraid of me? What I might do? To be honest, yes, I am a little frightened of you, and that's something I'm working out with my family. Princess Twilight and Princess Luna told me of what happened. They told me you were under the influence of a very dangerous hallucinogen, and such were not responsible for your actions. You seem to be fine now, or else I doubt they would have left you out of the restraints.
Applebloom sat cautiously at the side of Diamond Tiara's bed.
You heard about that? I heard about everything. As soon as I heard that it was you, I insisted on regular reports. Garnet was thoughtful enough to keep me informed.
Diamond said. At the mention of the unicorn's name, Applebloom blushed a little. The pink mare could not help but notice the reaction. I see. Well, we can discuss that later. Listen, Applebloom, you've done something for which you should be ashamed, she said, reaching out to hold the yellow hoof resting on her bed. I meant what I said. I deserved every bit of what I received. For a long time I feared that the sins of my past would return to take vengeance upon me, and to be honest, I'd been expecting it for many years. My one consolation is that the girls were not there. They do not know what it is like as a filly, and while I may tell them one day, I fear what they would think of me if they knew. Girls? Applebloom asked. Diamond Tiara moved a picture from the nightstand next to her bed and showed it to her visitor. Yes, my 2 darling daughters. It's true that Twist gave birth to one of them, but we both treat them as if they were ours. Applebloom could only stare at the picture. There in the center stood a very grown-up Pip, surrounded by Diamond Tiara and Twist. Next to the 2 mares were 2 small fillies, one with a pink coat and brown hair, the other having a mottled coat and a shockingly red mane. Bloom just sat there, staring at them and remembering growing up without a mother herself, and how she felt the day Granny Smith passed away. Her eyes started to fill with tears when she realized that she almost deprived these innocent young fillies of a parent. The emotional dam she had erected years ago broke sudden and violently as she buried her tear-soaked face into the comforter of Diamond Tiara's bed. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm sorry." A stray tear rolled down Diamond's cheek as she gently stroked the mare's mane. "I have no idea what you've been through, Applebloom, but I swear I will make up for every tear I've ever caused you to shed."